We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Zayin Amud Beis in Meseches Nazir. This is Nazir Daf 57b. On the previous Amud, the Mishnah was discussing a situation of two Nazirs, and there's one person who's by them, and he says that he saw Tumah between them. He doesn't know which one is Tameh, and so the Mishnah says they both bring the Karbanos, they both do the shaving, and they make a condition. They say, if I'm the one that's Tameh, then this is a carbon for Tumah, and the other one, your carbon, will be the carbon for Tahara, or the other way around, if I'm the one that's Tar, then the carbon Tahara is mine, and the carbon for Tumah is yours. And the Gemara asked, in this situation, if there are three people, that should be considered like a Rishus HaRabim. And the halach is that if you have a Safek Tumah and Rishus HaRabim, we're actually lenient, we're Mekel. So why is the Mishnah being Machmir in this case in terms of the Tumah? And so the Gemara answered, the case actually is that third person who sees the Tumah, he's not standing by them, he's not next to the two Nazirs, he's far away, therefore it's really only two people. It's considered to be a case of a Safek Tumah v'Rishus HaYachid, and that's why the Mishnah says that we should be Machmir. And the Gemara now says that the wording of the Mishnah as well, it supports this approach to Katani, because it says in the Mishnah, Ve'eni Yodeya Ezem Mikem, that third person says, I don't know which one of you is Tameh, sounds like he's not near them, that's why he doesn't know who became Tameh, Shma Mina. The Gemara says, indeed, you do see from the wording of the Mishnah that he's not really with them, and that's why it's not considered a Rishus HaRabim. And the Gemara continues that the two dots, Megalchin Umavi, and the Mishnah said that they shave and they bring these karbanos. And the Gemara asks, Ve'amai, but why are they shaving in this case? Dilma lav tamein inun. Maybe they're not actually tameh, and so therefore they don't need to actually shave for tumah. V'kavod hakafah. Now they're rounding the hair on their head. They're cutting off. They're shaving their payas, and that should be a problem. That should be a violation of the isra of hakafah. And the Gemara answers, Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Be'isha v'katan. We can just say that our Mishnah is talking about either a woman or a minor. They are not commanded in terms of the mitzvah of hakafa. An isha does not violate that prohibition, and a katan, a minor, doesn't violate the prohibition, and that's why in those situations they're supposed to shave. But the Gemara says, V'lukma begadol, but why not just say that our Mishnah actually is talking about a male who's an adult, and it's still not a violation, because v'hakafas kol harosh lo shma hakafa, just say that our Mishnah holds that if a person shaves the entire head, that's not called hakafa. It's only a violation of hakafa if you only shave the area of the corners of the head, if you only shave the payas, and then you leave the rest of the hair. But if you shave all the hair off, then maybe it's not called hakafa. Maybe that's the explanation of our Mishnah. But midelo mukim lahachi, from the fact that Shmuel does not give that answer, Shma mina kasavar Shmuel, we see from here that Shmuel holds hakafas kol harosh shma hakafa, that actually if a person shaves off all the hair on his head, that's still called hakafa, and that can be a violation of the Isser. And the Gemara continues, Mar Zutra masni lo lahashmaita de Shmuel ha-seifa. Mar Zutra learns the teaching of Shmuel, that it's going on the Seifa, it's going on the Mishnah coming up. Nazir shahayatame b'safek umuchlit b'safek. This was learned earlier. Let's say you have a Nazir, and it's a suffix whether he's tamei meis, and it's also a suffix whether he's a confirmed mitzora or not. So in that situation, he's not able to shave while he's a Nazir. Normally, if you're a Nazir and mitzora, so then you can shave for being a mitzora, and it's not considered a violation of the Nazirus. But over here, where it's just a suffix whether the person is a mitzora, so he's not able to shave while he's a Nazir, so he has to count an entire term. At the end of the term, he shaves the first shaving to purify himself as a mitzora. He counts now a second term as well, because we don't know whether the first term was for mitzora, was it for Nazir? We don't know exactly, so he counts a second term, and he shaves again for mitzora. That takes care of the mitzora situation. That's why it says, Ochel bekachim lachar shishim yom. He's now able to kachim after 60 days, because after 60 days, he can resolve the tzaras, but he still hasn't resolved the Nazirus. He has to do another 2 terms of Nazirus to take care of the possibility that he's a Nazir Tameh, and then to take care of the final possibility that he is not just now a Nazir Tahor. So umegaleach dalet tiglachos, he's going to end up shaved 4 times. That's why it said over there that he eats kachim after 60 days, but the Nazirus is not over until 120 days. Again, this was discussed earlier, and it will be discussed when we get to that Mishnah. But the question is the same question. If over here you're shaving out of a suffix obligation to shave, v'hakavod hakafa, isn't there a violation of the Isra of hakafa, of the rounding of the hair on the head? And again, the Gemara gives the same answer. This is a different version that Shmuel was going on this later Mishnah. Amar Shmuel says, Be'isha v'katan. We're talking about a situation in the Mishnah with a woman or with a minor, and so there is no Isser of hakafa. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Huna says, Hamakif es hakatan, if somebody rounds the hair of a minor, Harehu chayev, he's chayev, even though the minor, of course, is under no obligation because he's not chayev in mitzvahs. But if an adult cuts the minor's hair, he's going to be chayev for the violation of hakafa. Amar le Rav Ada bar Ahava le Rav Huna. So Rav Ada bar Ahava, he heard this ruling of Rav Huna, and he said to Rav Huna, "V'didach, but your children, man megalachlon, who's shaving their heads? You're violating what you yourself say is a problem." So Amar le, so Rav Huna said, Chova. So Chova, my wife, she's the one that's doing it, and she's allowed to do it because women are not commanded in terms of the Isra HaKafa. So there's no problem for the mother to shave the hair of her children. And so Rav Ada bar Ahava responded, Tikbarinun Chova livnei. If that's the case, then Chova should bury her children. And Rashi over here explains, Amar le Rav Ada Tikbarinu livnei deledidach. What Rav Ada was saying is, according to you, the Amar Hamakif is hakatan chayiv. You say that if an adult cuts the hair of the minor, then that adult is chayiv. So kimakef is leishanami chayiv. The same should be true by a woman. You should not be making this distinction between a man and a woman according to your view. But he says, but according to me, Rav Ada bar Ahava himself, any adult is able to cut the hair of a minor. It's not a problem at all. The same would be true when it comes to a woman. And the same when it comes to an adult. If somebody cuts the hair of an adult, then that individual is chayiv, and the same would be true by a woman. So in other words, Rav Ada bar Ahava was saying, once you say hamakif is hakatan is chayiv, you should not be making distinctions between a man and a woman in that regard. So he pronounced this curse on her children, Tikbarinu Chova livnei, and Kulu Shnei de Rav Ada bar Ahava, and the Gemara comments that all the years of Rav Ada bar Ahava, Lo Kayim Le Zaro Le Rav Huna, the children of Rav Huna were not able to survive. This curse came true at that time. And the Gemara now analyzes the two opinions. Michti, let us see. Vayu svira hakafas kolarosh ma'akafa. First, both opinions, they hold that the shaving of the entire head is considered to be shaving. That would be, in theory, a violation. Rashi says, Michti tarvayu svira luhu da hakafas kolarosh ma'akafa v'ahave luhu hakafas kolarosh levon of the Rav Huna. That was the case over here. We were talking about hakafas kolarosh by the children of Rav Huna. So they both hold that would, in theory, be a violation. And they're arguing again about the situation of the adults doing it to the children. But what's the machlokus? The machlokus is as follows. Rav Huna holds lo sakifu pas roshchem velo sashchis eis pas zekonech. It says you can't round out the corners of your head, and you're not allowed to destroy the corners of your beard. Kol sheyesh lo hashchasa, any individual who is commanded in hashchasa in the destruction of the beard, yesh lo hakafa, is also part of the prohibition of hakafa. V'hani nesheim, when it comes to women, hol v'lesnu b'hashchasa, since they're not part of hashchasa, they don't have beards, so therefore lesnu nami b'hakafa. They also are not part of the violation of hakafa. Rashi says, "V'hani neshei hol v'lesnu b'ashchasa deleslu zakin." They don't have a beard. Lesnu b'hakafa klal, so they're not part of hakafa at all. Shafilu isha makefes es hagadol petura. Therefore, according to him, even if a woman will round the hair of an adult, of a man who's an adult, it's not going to be a problem because women are not part of this isser whatsoever, according to the approach of Rav Huna. Lesnu nami b'hakafa. They're not part of hakafa. But Rav Ada bar Ahava, he holds echad hamakif v'echad hanikif b'mashma. Whether it's the person who's doing the rounding or whether it's the person whose hair is being cut, they're both part of the pasuk. V'izkish makif lenikif, and we compare the one who's doing the cutting to the person whose hair is being cut. Kol heicha de nikif mechayev. If you're in a situation where the nikif is going to be chayev, meaning he's not allowed to do it, makif nami mechayev, then the person who cuts his hair is also chayev. But by a minor, v'hai katan, when it comes to a minor, hoel v'hu gufei lav varonshin hu the mechayev, since he himself, a minor, is not somebody who gets punished, he's not obligated, so makif nami lo mechayev. So the person who cuts his hair, according to Rav Ada bar Ahava, there's no chiyuv whatsoever, there's nothing wrong, there's not going to be any obligation. Let's say an adult cuts a child's hair. And Rashi explains, Rav Ada bar Ahava savar kiyamar achmona lo sakifu echad hanikaf ve'echad hamakif ve'mashmo lo hamil se iskish nikif lamakif techalecha the nikif chayiv. What it means is, if the nikif is chayiv, makif nami chayiv, then the makif is chayiv. Lo shno ish v'lo shno ish. Now you don't make a distinction between a man and a woman in that regard. However, v'hai katan hol v'gufin lo mechayiv. But let's say you cut the hair of a katan, since the nikif, the katan, is not chayiv, mishum de la baron shenu, because he's not someone who can be punished. The makif le nami lo mechayiv afilu ish. So the makif also won't be chayiv, even if it is a man. And the Gemara continues, Lema hakafas kol harosh tanohi. Let us say that this issue, let's say if somebody rounds the entire head, they cut off all the hair in the head, let's say that issue is actually a machlokas tanoim. Tetan Rabbanan, because the rabbis taught, the pasuk says rosho, his head. Matam alomra. Why does the pasuk need to say rosho? This is talking about bayim etzora. Lefisha namar, because the pasuk already says lo sakifu pas roshchem. You're not allowed to round out the corners of your head. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Ches Amud Aleph.